Elementary music teacher friend, you love what you do, but you might feel unappreciated and, in fact, unseen some days. You may even feel like you're on a music teacher island and just want to connect with other music teachers who can relate to both your struggles and wins when it comes to teaching elementary music. I get you and understand completely the feelings you're having. That's why each and every week, the Elementary Music Teacher Podcast will provide you with solo and guest episodes that will help you realize you're not alone in your music teaching journey. Throughout each episode, my goal is for you to be able to walk away with actionable steps and ideas to help you feel like you're ready to take on the new week with whatever challenges may be thrown your way. Hi, I'm your host, Jessica Peresta, and I'm so glad you're here. Whether you're at home, in your car, in the shower, or wherever else you're listening, grab your cup of coffee or whatever other beverage is nearby and listen in to the Elementary Music Teacher Podcast. Hey. Welcome back to the Elementary Music Teacher Podcast. You're listening to episode 162. Today's episode is 3 mindset beliefs to tackle before heading back into this coming school year. So there's a lot of mindset things going on and a lot of mindset beliefs, a lot of thoughts you're having, which is completely normal. But when planning this episode, wanted to address the 3 main mindset blocks that I hear come up a lot from music teachers. There's a lot to think about when going back to school. There's a lot of mindset stuff surrounding the approaching school year. You may not be ready, completely burnt out, unsure, or you may be opposite and feeling completely excited and happy. Whatever the case is, let's talk about 3 mindset beliefs you may either have already had or you feel that are starting to creep up a little bit, and then how to tackle these mindset issues so you can head into the new school year feeling completely prepared and not like everything's going to be perfect, and not that this episode is going to solve all of your mindset problems and struggles, but my goal is to give you some strategies to help you really think through and process what you may be feeling as you head into this new school year. Number 1. I'm not good enough. I want you, as you're sitting here listening to this episode, wherever you may be, to think about when's the last time you had that thought? I'm not good enough. Fill in the blank. I'm not a good enough music teacher. I'm not a good enough friend because I work too much. I'm not good enough at planning lessons. I'm not a good enough wife. I'm not a good enough husband. I'm not a good enough daughter, son, whatever it may be. How many of you have had that thought? And if you've had, I want to talk about this. You have already tackled teaching during a pandemic. You probably faced one of several different teaching situations and probably had rotated a lot of the different ways you taught music. You maybe started teaching in person with a mask on, then you switched to virtual, then it was hybrid. Maybe you stuck with one way of teaching all school year long. Whatever your teaching situation was, I want you to think about how you tackled it. You did it. And be proud of yourself. I don't think as music teachers we give ourselves enough credit. We're not really getting a lot of accolades from others or attaboys or pat on the backs or awards or recognition or words of praise or whatever else it may be. But I want you to give yourself that praise. Give yourself that recognition. Give yourself the acknowledgement that you did something that no other music teacher in the history of the world has done. Besides the music teachers this school year, you taught during a pandemic. You are good enough. You're good enough to do that. You're good enough. Maybe you're listening to this episode and you just graduated with your music education degree. And you're already having those thoughts of, I'm not good enough. Who am I to go teach in a school when I'm brand new? Who am I? Well, you're you. Whether you're listening to this and you've been teaching several years, a few years, or haven't taught at all, you are good enough because you are you. Think about what's possible for you when it comes to teaching music. You have been equipped with a variety of new ways and means of teaching music that you maybe never thought you would have to pull out of your pocket to teach with, out of your toolkit to teach with. In college, I know music education students listening to this, you were, probably switched to virtual learning. So maybe you weren't teaching virtually, but you were learning virtually. Maybe you student taught virtually. There are so many skills, which I've talked about in past episodes, but you can bring with you. Take what you brought, take what you learned, take the hard things and bring it with you into this school year. Think of the possibilities that can happen because of what you did go through. Okay. You've done the hard things. You haven't given up. On the days you saw only one or two students, you kept going. Maybe you didn't want to keep going. Maybe it was hard to keep going, but you kept going. I apologize if you heard that ding-a-ding. My computer decided to tell me there was an update. We're going to keep going. Maybe I'm the only one that heard it. I don't know. But you kept going. Maybe there were days you cried. Maybe there were days that you wanted to quit. Maybe there were days you were frustrated and you're like, why am I even planning lessons when literally one child is coming? But you kept going. You did not give up. And when you have those thoughts of, I'm not a good enough music teacher, I want you to think about the fact that out of all the music teachers who could have been hired for your position, they chose you. Why? Why were you the one hand selected to teach music at your school in your teaching position? It was for a reason. And not only that, you got into teaching music for a reason. You chose this profession when you could have done anything else with your life. Why? It's always about going back to your why. Remembering that you are good enough to do this. You are good enough. And so, yes, let's acknowledge it together right now. Last year and the year before that was incredibly hard. Incredibly hard. I am not trying to shortchange that in this episode at all. I am not trying to sit here and say that, just everybody move along. Let's just have sunshine and rainbows and be super happy. No. It's not what I'm trying to say at all. But don't let the thoughts creep in about you not being good enough because of things that were completely out of your control. You still showed up even if you felt like you did not know what you were doing. You were reinventing the wheel. There were days that you literally had no idea what your district was requiring of you, but you kept going. That is good enough. That's good enough. So keep going. Number 2, this goes right into what I just said. Maybe you feel like giving up. Maybe along with having the thoughts of I'm not good enough, maybe you felt like giving up. Maybe you've had those thoughts like right now before school even starts. You're like, I give up. I really I don't want to do this anymore. I'm exhausted, tired, feel unappreciated, and I just don't know if I can do it anymore. Let's talk about how to move forward with that. First of all, I have a whole entire episode in episode 152. There was a whole episode where I talked about what to do and how to move forward if you feel like giving up. All right. So I want you after today's episode is to go and listen to that episode because I gave you some really actionable tips. All right. But if you feel like giving up, you've planning lessons, your classroom management, you're teaching your students music, you're assessing your students. I just named 4 categories of like the millions of things that go into being an elementary music teacher. It's hard. And it's harder than people let you in on before you became a music teacher. So many things I didn't find out about until I stepped foot into my classroom that I was like, well, why did nobody tell me this in college? Where did all the money I paid for my degree go? Like, what was this all about? So I want to let you in on a little secret. If you feel like giving up, maybe sometimes it's because all those hard things that you're doing, maybe it's just because you're not really sure, like, are you planning lessons correctly? Is your classroom management system, are you doing it right? Are you teaching your students music the air quote right way? Are you assessing your students the way you're supposed to? Maybe you feel like giving up because you're so hard on yourself, or you just don't know if you're doing it, air quote. I'm using air quotes. You can't see me because this is a podcast, but maybe you don't know if you're doing it right. So can I let you in on a little secret? This is a little secret I wish someone had told me. All right. And hold on to this statement. Every teacher, even if they say that this is not true, it's true. I promise you. Every teacher at one point or another has had the thoughts of giving up. Every teacher, they have had the thoughts of giving up. Maybe it was just a hard day. Maybe it was a hard week. Maybe it was a month. Maybe it was an entire school year, hello last year, whatever it may be. Every teacher has had that thought. It's crossed through their minds at one point or another. You are not alone in having these thoughts. You're not alone in feeling like you want to give up. Education is a hard career, especially as a music educator. It's tough. But here's the thing. Going back to what I said in the first point, that you are good enough, you are cut out for this, and you can do this. This is not just lip service, me just giving you a pep talk. I 100% mean it. You are good enough. You can do this. So I want you to give yourself grace. We talked about all the things that go into being a music teacher, and I mentioned 4 areas: planning lessons, classroom management, teaching, and assessing. And maybe part of keeping things simple is maybe you're just like over planning and it's stressing you out. Maybe with classroom management, there's just that one class that you're just like struggling with. Maybe when it comes to assessment, you're just not quite sure what to do. And so all of that can begin to overwhelm you. And that is sometimes where these mindset thoughts will come into your brain, is when stuff starts festering and all the little things that come in your mind start piling up, and it'll turn into this stress ball of thoughts. And the thoughts, if you hold on to them long enough, is what you start believing. But I want you to know that things will not always be perfect. Okay, can I let you in on that secret? That's another secret for you. Things will not always be perfect, but you are cut out for this. I want you to give yourself grace on those hard days. On those days you just feel like your mindset is not where it should be, give yourself grace and know that things will not be perfect. Know that there are going to be lessons that flop. There will be. Some teachers have a better brave face they put on than others, where maybe internally they're screaming inside thinking this is not going well, but they don't really react to that until later. Or maybe there's, I know for me, my husband tells me this all the time, I wear my emotions and my thoughts on my face. It's totally unintentional. I just do. And so I know my students could always tell when a lesson wasn't going well. I would kind of make all these grimacing faces and, oh, this isn't good. And so maybe you're like that, but whatever the case is, there are going to be lessons that flop. But think about what will happen when you don't give up. What is the main thing that'll happen when you don't give up? When you don't focus on all the things that went wrong, but you just keep going. You give yourself grace. You realize that perfection is a myth. It's not normal. It's not going to you're never going to achieve that perfect status. When you don't give up, your students are going to continue getting to learn music. Isn't that the main goal after all? Is for them to become lifelong lovers and learners and advocates of music. So when you don't give up, they are your why. Your students are your why. They are the reason you show up on those hard days when you just feel like you're not in it. They are your why. All right? You may be feeling super overwhelmed, and maybe you want to go from feeling burnout to confident. Part of this does come from experience, just getting in there and trying new things. We're going to go back to that phrase I've said a million times already, is not giving up, and knowing how to plan lessons, what resources to use, and how to teach lessons. It just takes not only time and consistency, but having a support system behind you that's cheering you on. And that can take a little bit of time too, to figure out, where is that support system? How do you find them? Because as you know, as a music teacher, you can feel like you're on an island all on your own. So when you feel like you have some mindset stuff coming up, find that community where you belong, whether it's in person or online, and you will start feeling like these feelings of burnout and overwhelm are going to start shifting slowly. It's not overnight. It will take time, but you'll start feeling, you can feel the shift internally, that you're going to start feeling a bit more confident. Number 3, here's the third mindset issue I've especially heard this year, and maybe you have even said this one out loud, is my students are behind. You've said my students are behind. And I want you to do this for me. I want you to reframe this thought and repeat after me. There is no behind. There is no behind. I started my teaching career. I've said this before, if you listen to this podcast any amount of time, but the school I started at hadn't had a music program for 7 years. But here's the thing. Do you think my 5th graders were at a 5th grade music level? Do you think I was able to plan lessons according to the 5th grade music standards? No, of course not. Of course I wasn't. So I didn't let that stop me, though. I didn't go, well, forget it. I guess there's no composition happening this year. They're not going to be doing any of this stuff. So what's the point? No, I just started them out just appreciating music, loving music, finding out what music they wanted to learn. We did a whole lot of body percussion because I didn't have any instruments. We did a whole lot of speech pieces and raps and started singing, moving to music. Before I even focused on a single objective, I knew I just wanted my students to love music, to feel the music, to appreciate the music, to get excited about learning music. So instead of focusing on my students being behind, I focused on teaching them music and connecting with them. All the standards and objectives will come. It'll come with time. Even teachers who have been at the same school for 20 years will find that some standards and concepts that we're required to teach as music educators, they're hard to teach. And sometimes it's hard for students to grasp certain concepts. So even if you teach a certain concept, sometimes you look at your students to assess for understanding, and you're getting sometimes these glazed looks looking back at you like, what are you talking about? And you're like, all right, something's not connecting. The dots are not connecting there. So students are not behind. What I'm trying to get at is even those teachers who have followed a fifth grade curriculum for music, fifth grade standards, some of their fifth graders still are not grasping things. They're still not, it's not clicking. And it doesn't mean your students are behind if you never followed a single fifth grade concept this school year because your students were new to music class. So there is no behind. You will eventually get your students where you want them to be, going back to the time and consistency piece. But please give yourself grace. This school year, let's say you were virtually teaching all school year long. Let's say even though your students got a Zoom link and they were able to join you, maybe you out of a class, I don't know, let's say of 30 second graders, you saw maybe on average 3 to 5 students per class period show up live. I want to also encourage you that it doesn't mean those other, let's say 25 students who weren't joining you live, that they were not learning music on their own or following lessons that you maybe pre-recorded and sent to them, or participating in a music game online on a website maybe you sent them. Is it exactly the same way you would have done it in your music classroom? No. Does it mean that they're going to be behind? Well, define behind. Behind where you would usually have them in the music room? Maybe. But does it mean that you won't be able to take those ideas that they did and that they can't share them with you, and you can't do those ideas that they did at home in your classroom and get them excited about music? And in return, you can say, hey, guess what? That's also called timbre. Did you know that? That's how music sounds. That's what you did. You maybe didn't even know that. Oh, wow. It's just going to be a natural conversation of something you can talk to with your students. So set goals and give yourself and your students time to meet those goals. If you don't meet those goals, just keep going. Don't give up. If I had focused on all the students that had never had music class and they were basically all on the same playing field, I would have just been like so overwhelmed. Like, how am I supposed to get them where they're supposed to be? But instead, I just tried things. I saw what connected with my kiddos and I kept going and I didn't give up. That's what I want to encourage you to do this coming school year as well. So whatever mindset issues you've been replaying in your brain, maybe it's some I've named in this episode, or maybe it's something I haven't said. You don't have to figure things out alone. A lot of times music teachers, like I said earlier, you may feel like you're on this music teacher island. And what I mean by that is you a lot of times are the only music teacher in your whole school. I know there are exceptions to the rule. Sometimes there's a lower elementary music teacher, a upper elementary music teacher. Sometimes, there's shared music classes or whatever it might be. But you a lot of times are on your own. I mean, it can feel lonely and isolating and like you don't know where to go to get support. It's overwhelming trying to make so many decisions and not knowing what direction to take at times. And not knowing, like I said, where to get the support you so desperately need. I would love for you to join the other amazing music teachers who are either currently in Harmony or have already enrolled this summer in the Harmony membership site. Harmony was created to help you go from feeling burnt out to confident as an elementary music teacher, because every teacher's journey is different. I've already talked about that in this episode. Your music teaching journey is not going to look like anyone else's, but that's good news because your students, they need the unique and one-of-a-kind music teacher that you are. You were hired to teach music at your school for a reason. But wouldn't it be awesome to get a supportive group of other elementary music teachers to support you through the entire school year and who are going through the same content as you so you can talk with them and understand what it's like to plan and implement lessons and show up on those days that are hard and ask for support? Teaching elementary music is stressful. It's challenging not knowing where to go to get the support, advice, and community you've been craving from other teachers. You don't want to bother other elementary music teachers, maybe at neighboring schools or online, because you get how busy they are because you're in there living it just like they are. On top of that, after your first year of teaching, you don't have a mentor teacher anymore. Or you get assigned a mentor teacher who doesn't know a lot about music. I can't tell you how many times I've talked to music teachers who can relate to that exact story. Maybe you spend countless hours hoping you're doing the right thing and comparing yourself to other music teachers. It's all a big guessing game at times, trying to figure out if you're doing this whole elementary music teaching thing right. Maybe you've come home crying a lot of days, or maybe you never left your house last year and you taught virtually, but you closed your laptop and you cried most of the days because you're just so overwhelmed. You're constantly being told to put in 100%. You don't really have 100% to give. You're exhausted. You don't know what resources to use. You're tired of dealing with classroom management issues. But it doesn't have to feel this way. By joining Harmony, click on the link in the bio or head to thedomesticmusician.com and click on the Harmony tab. You will start feeling a little less burnout and more confident as an elementary music teacher. You will begin beating the stress you've been feeling in your work and home life. It's not going to come up overnight. It will take you investing your time and showing up and consistently putting in the work. But when you do that, I will give you the steps to take in order to move forward. You will identify where you're at on what's called a success path from feeling overwhelmed all the way to confident. There are 4 stages, and those stages will help walk you through what to do next in order to move forward. Listen, life is never going to be completely stress-free. It's never going to be. You're not a robot. You're a human being. So you're always going to feel stress from time to time. I do. I feel stress all the time, you guys. And with the Harmony members, I'm very vulnerable and real. In fact, today, when you join Harmony, by the way, I send you a personalized video from me directly to you with your name, and I record each video individually. And today I sent someone a video with no makeup on. And so I am all about keeping it real and being authentically working from integrity and being as real with you as I want you to show up for yourself. There are strategies and ways to alleviate some of the stress you've been feeling. And after you join Harmony, you'll get action steps to help you move forward in beating the stress and overwhelm. And I've already mentioned that supportive community of other elementary music teachers that will be able to relate to you and celebrate your wins or struggles, no matter how big or small. You're going to get monthly completely done for you lesson plans for the entire school year that you can also modify and adapt as your own. You can edit them completely as your own, but it also includes ways in the lesson plan packs, which was added this last school year, of how to adapt the lesson plans for teaching virtually or on a cart as well. Videos explaining the lessons, how to make your classroom more equitable, classroom management strategies that are different for every single month of the school year, membership calls, accountability week, access to the members only Facebook group, and honestly, so much more I can't describe unless you're a member. Also, I have been doing summer workshops all summer long. There were 4 workshops. There was challenges I did last summer and last winter, and you will get full access to every workshop and every single challenge. And one of the challenges is 30 days. And all of them are permanently stored inside of Harmony for you to access as many times as you want. So doors close tomorrow at 10 p.m. Central Standard Time, 11 p.m. Eastern, and I can't wait to see you inside. And as you're listening to this episode, if you are dealing with some mindset issues, just think through them, process through your thoughts, write out why these mindset things are coming to the surface, and really strategize ways on how you're going to move forward and tackling those before you start the school year. I'm here to support you any way I can. I'll be back on next week with a brand new episode, and we're going to be bringing guests back onto the podcast in August. I can't wait. Have an amazing day, friends. If you have any questions about harmony before the doors close tomorrow, shoot me an email, jessica@thedomesticmusician.com, and I'll get right back to you. Have an amazing day. Well, hey there. Thank you so much for listening into the Elementary Music Teacher Podcast. There is an exclusive Facebook group just for listeners of this podcast and any elementary music teacher called the Elementary Music Teacher Community Facebook group. Come on over and join us there, where we have conversations around the podcast episodes and encourage each other each and every week. And also head to my website, thedomesticmusician.com. I have some free resources there that you can download to help you gain traction in your classroom today, as well as the blog and the membership site and all kinds of other goodies to help you keep going in your music teaching journey. I cannot wait to keep connecting with you and encouraging you and spurring you on in your journey of teaching elementary music. Hang in there, have an amazing week, and I will see you soon.